Do we need to wait a few or?
No, we still got a quorum, so we're.
Okay. Okay, I think we'll get started. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting of the Board of Zoning Appeals for December 10th. Could I have roll call, please?
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Harriman,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins,
Here.
Mr. Hogan, Mr. Oler, is that his last name is pronounced?
Ayler.
Taylor. Thank you.
Everybody, I would like to have a motion for approval of minutes for the November 12th, 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We're here,
Were you here for it?
so I guess we'll have to.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll put to January.
And going on to communication for planning and zoning, Mr. Hutchinson.
Welcome everyone. I didn't glad everyone came in. That it's snow, sleeting, or something. So hopefully everyone careful going. I've got a long drive, so I'll be taking it slow. Last meeting of the year, so we're almost there and get a new start to next year. I think we have we do have an opening in planning and zoning, so we may be looking to fill that board. So we may have some change ups next year. We may have some members from this board possibly going to the board, vice versa. So, I have some new faces next year.
Thank you. On to public comment. It's for any comments unrelated for the to the applicant on tonight's agenda. Any public comment? Like to close the public comment that's unrelated to the application tonight. And moving on, do we have any old business? And then moving on to our new business. This is a public hearing for variance 25-8. Variance 25-8 is request for variance of 138 West Main Street, variance from section 1199.13C4B and 1199.13C4F. Permanent signs. Applicant is Mr. Tim Dawson.
So what we have tonight, I just want to give a brief overview of the variance that's being requested tonight. So tonight's variance is for to permit a 40.25 square foot projecting sign. It exceeds the maximum 9 square feet per sign that is allowed per chapter 1199.13C4B. It's also, the variance is also going to include chapter 1199.13C4F, which is projection signs may not extend above the sill of the second story window for the primary main story storefronts. So the project description, this is at 138 West Main Street, the Granary. It's in the B3 Business District, Uptown Overlay District. Business currently has a projection sign for the Granary that would be replaced with this proposed sign. It also has a second story business, the Silo, that has a projecting sign as well. Right now, with that sign being 40.25 is what's being proposed, it does exceed almost 4 times the size of what's permitted by code. I think it would be dangerous to set that type of precedent on that type of sign. So staff is not in support of the variance for that. Right now, the current sign that is there is the largest single-use sign that is in the district already. So approving something that is that 4 times as big as what's permitted by size, I think would be dangerous. That's all.
Mr. Dawson, the application, do you want to say anything in regards to the sign or anything like that?
I guess we have to first swear everybody in.
What-
Who else is anybody
Okay.
If you guys would just raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony that you will provide to the Board of Zoning Appeals this evening will be the truth and the whole truth? Yes. Okay.
Would anybody like to start the discussion for the application? I mean, do you have anything to comment on?
My only comment is that I mean, I don't have a problem with this sign. In fact, I actually really like the guitar better than I like this, to be blunt with you. I thought the guitar was unique and different and indicative of what's actually going on there. This is fine, but if I had to pick one or the other, I'd probably pick the guitar, to be honest, because that was a little bit different, a little more like, new and inviting and whatever. This is cool and whatever, and I don't have a problem with the size of it. I think it's just unique to that entire block, which we probably haven't seen for a very long time. And, it's 2025, almost 2026. It's not that big a deal if we get a little creative on some things, even if it's planning for like future tenants to have smaller signs or whatever across that whole block or whatever. There might be a different way to skin the cat from that perspective. So, I'm an open-minded dude when it comes to this kind of stuff and like to think outside the box. But again, I don't mind this, but I kind of like the guitar better, to be blunt. So I know that got shot down, but it's kind of the same sentiment that I mentioned last time.
Can you stand up there?
Absolutely, if you'd like. Or,
It doesn't matter. I think that I agree this would set a really dangerous precedent. I think that his current sign already needed a variance. His current sign is already bigger than code allows. It's already above the second floor sill, like you're not allowed to do without a variance. So he already has a double variance for what's there. I think that if you allow something more than 4 times that size to go in, you're basically throwing your own rules out the window. It's not worth having rules if you're gonna let something like this go through. In what I would still call a historic district, even though that designation is, the designation has been removed, but it's still a historic district. I think it's wildly inappropriate. I think that it's just patently unfair for every other business down there who has followed the rules and has their signs like they're supposed to allow somebody to do something like that is, thumbing your nose at all of the existing businesses down there. That's how I feel about it.
thank you.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
So let's say that Tim keeps expanding west, like I said, he owns the whole block, right? If he keeps expanding west and creating additional frontage for the Granary Live, for example, that's a lot of frontage of a building that would support a larger sign or whatever, potentially. Like, does that expansion impact the ability to do a bigger sign like this later on if he continues to expand? Like he has, and whatever, because if that's in the plans, then, you're almost kind of precursoring the work now of something that could continue to happen in the future. I'm asking if the size of the sign matters if he takes over, let's say, the next 1 or 2 spaces in that at some point in the future, right? Because that's just a lot more frontage.
I was gonna say, default probably, besides me just being the zone, he probably knows that.
I think it would be, in that case, would be more appropriate would be possibly an additional sign of the same size. I don't think going bigger necessarily, just because the wider doesn't necessarily mean that the sign can be bigger. So if it, let's just say, for example, that whole block became that, I would say at that point it could be appropriate for a variance request to add an additional sign, but I don't think going bigger would be the solution.
But currently in the code, I'm
Trying to pull it up.
it really doesn't.
Just
basically a single, it doesn't define the frontage distance. It just is like a single occupant, kind of irregardless of their frontage, but that's what you're saying, but I think it's,
Yeah.
right now currently, it's just one sign per frontage.
And in downtowns, that's pretty typical. Now, when you get out like industrial, or if you get out on thoroughfares where you have lots, individual lots that are 100, 200 feet, yes, there is a formula for how big your building is, for how big your sign that is. But that's also based off setback too. So honestly, the bigger, the further you set back, the sign is gonna be bigger so you can see it better. When you're in uptown or downtown, when everything's right there to the sidewalk or to the streets, that typically isn't necessary.
I can clarify that because that's partially true, but partially untrue, because the building square foot, the road frontage of your building absolutely does dictate the size of the sign that you're allowed to have, except for a projecting sign.
Except for project,
So
yeah.
you absolutely can have a bigger sign because you
Yep.
have more road frontage.
Yeah.
You just have to plaster it on the side of the building instead, which is what we talked about the last time. I could make the most god-awful ugliest sign in the world and it would be approved and nothing, I wouldn't be here in front of, because it would even be smaller in square footage than what I'm proposing. That's the funny thing.
Yeah,
What
so
I'm facing today.
correction, the projection sign, at least what we're discussing tonight.
And I guess that's my thing with the projection sign, not the,
Yes,
wall sign.
projection sign, yeah, doesn't work with.
Is there any things that we need to discuss about, like the illumination of the sign, like how much you can illuminate a sign?
Now,
That's
for
irrelevant.
any lidded sign, there is a light shed. I mean, this wouldn't fall under that, so it would be fine.
And like the sign that we did do a variance on, it was a multi-use sign.
That's correct.
And therefore that can go outside of the square footage because of the multi-use.
Yeah, so what it does is it limits the uses, the individual signs that are on those. So it gives you up to a maximum, I believe it's, the code set at 5. So that is in code today. And so, I mean, for example, the one that was approved by a variance prior to the code going into effect, even the largest part on that sign is only 14.5 square feet. So even that one, the one use that is a little bit bigger than the others is only 14.5 square feet. And Tim, sorry, what size is your granary sign now? 5 by 5? So the current one that's there now is 25 square feet.
Are we ready for me to talk about the actual application for zoning requirement?
Absolutely.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to take it or not. But I do want to say that,
I need to close the public comment.
oh, sorry.
Sorry about that. That was fine. So I would like to close the public hearing for variance 25-8.
No, it's not closing the public hearing because it's
The
still
public
public comment portion, yeah. The hearing's not closed.
now.
Hi. I wanted to just clarify because I just want to make sure that the board is very clear that some of the things that you've heard tonight are misleading because the multi-tenant sign that is currently up right now is, like Derek said, is supposed to be proportionate to each of the businesses and it's supposed to be limited to a square footage. And then what happened was the 114 West Bourbon Bar ended up being 8 foot by 3 foot, which is 24 square feet, not what Derek alluded to earlier, which is not what the code requires, which is only 8, I believe it's 8 square feet per tenant is the size that that's allowed to be, or 6, I can't remember if it's 6 or 8 without reading it out, but it is absolutely not what happened, and that is not what you guys approved. And so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page about what we're talking about tonight, because, like I said, my road frontage, I'll talk about that later, but I can absolutely have a 73 square foot sign if I wanted to plaster one across the front of my building. And that's just not appropriate. And so I'm asking for a 40 square foot sign. But I wanted to say good evening, board members, solicitors, staff. My name is Tim Dawson. I'm the owner of the granary. And I'd like to note for record that staff recommendations are input and our opinions, but Ohio law requires the board to apply a 7-factor analysis from the Duncan versus Middlefield Supreme Court case when evaluating dimensional variances. A staff recommendation cannot replace that legal test. When each Duncan factor is applied to this property, every factor weighs in favor of granting this variance. My application addresses the law, the practical conditions of the property, and equal enforcement. I ask the board to decide based on those standards. I'm here today to request approval for 3-dimensional variances related to the projecting blade sign at 138 West Main Street. 6 years ago, when my original 25 square foot wall projecting sign was approved, my building only had 24 square feet of road frontage. Today, I have invested heavily in expanding the property, and today the granary expands 73 feet of continuous road frontage across 2 parcels, and the building is now used on multiple levels. The granary restaurant on the first floor, the Silo entertainment venue on the second floor, which is sometimes also used from the granary on the second floor, and residential units above the second, on the second floor above the granary also in the second parcel. So we have apartments, we have a venue, and we have a restaurant down on the first floor, all in those same 2 parcels going on in that building. So the original sign no longer provides adequate visibility for identification for a building of its size, height, and public use. A property scaled projecting blade sign is now necessary for safe and effective operation of the property. For the record, I'm requesting 3 variances: a variance for the size of the projecting blade sign, a variance for the projection distance from the building to the end of that sign, which is 44 inches, and it's only allowed to be 36. A variance for a mounting height of the sign above the second floor window, which is already approved. This sign will be lower than my Silo sign, and this sign will be lower than my neighbor's sign next door. My sign does not use reflective bulbs, so those bulbs are non-reflective and fully compliant. And that was one of the reasons why I was supposed to be here. And I am not using reflective bulbs, I'm using non-reflective bulbs, so no illumination variance is needed for this. Therefore, the board is considering only dimensional variances, size, projection, and height. Why the variance is needed? A projecting blade sign is essential for 3 practical reasons: visibility and legibility for customers approaching from either direction, public safety to reduce sudden braking and driver confusion when they're coming, because there's a lot of people that come from out of town that have never been to Plain City when they're coming to my events. Wayfinding for visitors, especially during events at the Silo and the granary when we're having guests in the Silo and the granary. The sign is not decorative, it is functional and represents minimum size needed for safe, effective identification of this multi-use building. The neighboring building at West Main Street is the only reason why I'm bringing this up is to bring things into perspective, because I like my neighbor's sign next to me. It's not about not liking that sign, but it's about the building that is right next door. Do you realize, as a board members, that there should have been multiple BZA hearings about that building? That building today has 136.44 square feet of total signage on it. When it says Plain City across the building, when it says McCune across the building, those things are included in the sign ordinance. It's right in the ordinance. When you have letters, a rectangle has to be drawn around those letters, and that is included in sign square footage. That was put up. I would highly doubt whether that ever came to BZA. Then we have the other signs that are on the building. We have a sign on the side of the building that talks about the Bourbon Bar. We have a huge 8-foot by 3-foot sign that talks about the Bourbon Bar, which I'm perfectly okay with. But then there's 3 more tenants underneath that sign. We have a front porch home sign on the first floor. We have the barbershop sign on the first floor. How many signs does it take to get someone to go into that building and know that there's businesses in there? It's pretty astounding. The projecting sign that's out there right now, because it's under a brand new ordinance, it just came into effect. Wonder why that happened, because that's a second and a third floor. So it's okay that they have that, but it's supposed to be proportionate, but it wasn't. So it's 42 square feet, and it's 44 inches projecting from the building also. My property has 73 foot of frontage, more frontage than my neighbor, and I'm requesting a 40.2 square foot sign. My existing sign is 25 square feet. I have heard it say multiple times tonight from the zoning officer that I'm requesting something that is 4 times that size, and it is not. It's not even twice the size of my current sign, but I have expanded 3 times the size of my business. And so what I'm saying is that I am being penalized by me expanding my operation and bringing more people to Plain City. I'm being penalized because I'm not allowed to have a larger sign. Like Race Robinson just mentioned, if I expand larger, am I allowed to have no? The answer is no. The answer is no from Mr. Hutchinson. I can't have a larger projecting sign. It has to be 16 square feet. Or not even 16 square feet, it's 9 square feet, I believe. And so it isn't a lot of logic there. So the Supreme Court of Ohio in Duncan versus the Village of Middlefield, there are 7 controlling factors for the test. The board is legally required to consider all 7 factors under the practical difficulty standard. And here's how this request satisfies each factor. So number 1 is, can the property yield a reasonable return without the variance? A 25 square foot wall sign designed for a 24-foot road storefront is no longer functional on a 73-foot wide multi-use building. I didn't have the silo. The silo sign came after the granary sign that was approved. The granary sign and the Pioneer Pizza sign are identical. Same size, same. So it isn't the only sign in Plain City that is that size, because there's 2 of them, and was never a problem. And now I didn't have 2 apartments above in that building, in those buildings either. So I've expanded into both parcels. I'm going to be expanding into the 3rd parcel because Main Street Treasures at the end of their lease will no longer be there. And that's going to be the granary also. We're going to expand again. So it's going to be another 20 feet of road frontage, of 93 feet of road frontage. And so without the variance, the property cannot be safely or effectively identified, harming operations and events. It's not about profit, it's about purpose. There's a purpose in the sign. It's not about profit. It doesn't matter. It's not going to bring us any more people into. It's about purpose, about identifying our building when people are traveling into town. Is the variance substantial? No. Compared to the neighbors, the 136 total square foot of signage, it's with less frontage. This request is modest, proportional, and significantly smaller. It's not substantial in context. Will the variance alter the essential character of the neighborhood? No. Downtown Plain City already contains multiple projecting signs and larger signage than proposed. This sign enhances pedestrian-oriented, entertainment-focused character that the village has encouraged. And multiple things, you guys, we continue to hear about the comprehensive plan that wants it to be an entertainment district. Will the variance adversely affect government services? No. The sign does not obstruct utilities, emergency access, sight lines. It improves public safety by making the building easier to locate. Did the owner purchase the property with the knowledge of the limitation? When the original sign was approved, the building had a much smaller frontage. The village later set a new enforceable precedent by approving a larger projecting sign next door. This difficulty was not self-created. Can the difficulty be resolved without a variance? No. Smaller signage would be unreadable and ineffective. Additional small signs would clutter the facade, contradict the ordinance intent, and still fail to solve the visibility problems. A single appropriately scaled blade sign is the most intrusive and most effective solution. I don't want a bunch of signs all over my building. I'm not going to keep adding signs. That would not do the village any favors. If I continue to expand, and I'm going to continue to have a lot of little signs hanging all over the building that no one can even read. Will the spirit and intent of the zoning requirements be observed and substantial justice be done? Yes. The purpose of the sign ordinance is to ensure visibility, safety, and uniformity. The request fulfills all three of those things. Granting this variance also ensures fair and consistent treatment relative to neighborhood properties, safety, and community benefit. The greenery brings large numbers of visitors to the downtown, including many unfamiliar with the area. Clear identification is essential for event attendees, drivers approaching at night, elderly visitors, families with children, out-of-town guests, Uber drivers. The list goes on and on. There are people that are coming that haven't been to Plain City before. A properly sized blade sign makes the district safer and more welcoming. In summary, the sign design is compliant, illumination is compliant, only 3-dimensional variances are requested. All 7 Duncan factors support the approval. The request is smaller and more proportional than the signage already approved on the same block. The sign is necessary for visibility, safety, effective use of the property. Under the Duncan Middlefield standards and the principles of equal enforcement, this variance is justified, appropriate, and fully aligns with the purpose of the zoning ordinance. I respectfully request approval. The last statement I have is the neighboring building that I am completely in support of has 136 square feet of frontage and 66 square feet of road frontage on Main Street, over twice the total permitted signage area. Yet the village approved that collection of signs, including 42 square foot projecting sign that was above and beyond what was already in the variant. You already had a multi-tenant signage that you just came up with right before Mr. Robinson brought this to the board. And then he went above and beyond that sign size and asked for you to approve a larger sign than what was already allowed in the village. And you did. My building has 73 feet of frontage, more frontage than that building, and I'm requesting a single 40.2 square foot sign that replaces a 25 square foot sign round that has very small letters that is very difficult to read, approving 136.44 square feet under a smaller road frontage while denying a 40.2 square foot on a smaller frontage constitutes arbitrary and unequal application of the ordinance, which violates due process and the Duncan various standard. I conclude with that.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. Harriman? Mr. Uller? Any questions for the applicant?
Well, I could ask some questions. What support do you have that there's special conditions affecting the property that justify a variance?
What was the question again, sir?
What support do you have that there's special conditions affecting the property that justify the variance?
The special conditions are the fact that I have tripled in size from when I originally had my sign there. For the business that is operating, it's now 3 times as wide, and it is disproportionate for the actual business that's going on inside of the building. We have 3 times the square footage now.
And so you've expanded, is what you're saying?
Yes, sir.
And so is this application, the variance,
profit.
It's not for profit, it's for purpose of people being able to see the sign legibly and know what is going on inside the building and what the purpose of the building is. And that's why we have a larger sign there that says the Granary Live.
And what's the size of the sign now?
It is 25 square feet approximately, if you draw a rectangle around it like you're supposed to.
And you said you did have knowledge of the current zoning?
Yes, when I first opened that business, yes, I did. And
Okay.
then,
And it hasn't changed?
no, it has not.
Okay. Any other questions?
Will you go back over why you don't feel that the current sign is appropriate? Like, I understand that you've expanded considerably since you built it. Why do you feel as though that is no longer sufficient?
The small round sign,
Yeah, which
because I've had, the main reason why is I have multiple customers that are coming in and saying that they could not even see that where the granary was. They didn't know that it was there. Literally, I don't know how in the world, but they cannot see. You know, I know that a lot of it has to do with the fact that the letters on the sign are very small, because it's a large round sign, but the letters are very small. But that's the main reason I continue to get people thinking they can see the silo sign and it sticks out, but they didn't even see the granary sign. They said that the silo sticks out way more. And so it's one of the things that I really want to remedy.
So the granary, does it just occupy the first floor, or does it occupy any of the second floor level at all?
Yeah, what happens sometimes we have overflow that goes up. If we don't have an event going on in the silo on the second floor, we do bring people up onto the second floor in the silo where the silo is to see and to eat. You know, when we're on a large wait, we offer that to the customers if they want to go upstairs, and a lot of them do.
Okay. And do you know, what's the size of the sign?
It's 2,400 square feet.
Okay. Do you know what the?
Yeah, it's 4,900 square feet total at 138 West Main Street. And then we have almost identical over at 150 West Main Street where we just moved into. And so when we moved from the 2,400 square feet on the first floor of the granary, we added another 2,600 square feet when we took over Main Street Treasures to 2 spaces.
Okay. The silo sign that's on the outside of the building, do you know how tall that was proportionally?
I'm just going to be guessing.
Give it, yeah.
It's 6 feet tall by 2 feet wide.
Okay.
Yeah, at least the permit we have on file that was because you came into DRB, I think with that one, back when we had DRB. And
The silo?
was approved, yeah. But
What I don't want to get into, and you raised a couple points. Is the sign, has the ordinance changed? Yeah, it has on multi-tenant units. And so what I don't want to get into is this tit for tat and me telling you that, okay, I'm going to put every one of my businesses on that sign, and then I'm going to be granted a multi-tenant sign. And so I guess I don't want to do that. Or I could make a little tiny sign like my next door neighbor did that has this, but make the granary sign the largest and the biggest part of it, like was approved. And all I'm asking for is the actual sign to be approved the way that it is without having to go through all of those things. It's a variance, just like you gave Mr. Robinson a variance for his sign being as large as it is, because it is larger than what is supposed to be approved in the ordinance that was just written.
When you were looking at designing another sign for your business, did it go through a lot of like drafts of coming up with this design, or I'm just asking for aesthetic purposes?
Yeah, no, we basically went to my construction company that did the expansion, and of course they do a lot of of the Nashville bars. They have a place in Las Vegas. They have a place in Gatlinburg, a restaurant that they've done. And so they actually sent the request to their sign company who makes their signs, and that is the sign design that they recommended for the size business that we have and the design of it. Because like Mr. Robinson mentioned, I originally asked for a guitar, and so since that, I just went back to the drawing board. I didn't want to be argumentative and do what everyone thought I was going to do, is go to court. All I'm trying to do is figure out a compromise that is acceptable with the board, so that I want to win. I want to win-win. Everyone's happy. It's where it should be, and that's what my goal is, and that's why I came back with a different design.
So I know during your presentation, you talked about applying for 3 different variances for the size, the height, and then the, I guess, the coming out. I know on ours, we just show the application having the 2. I guess for procedurally, kind of like an overview, just like that, having the 3rd variance that was brought up about the procedure for that.
Well, technically, it's not part of the application. However, so long as Mr. Dawson is okay with it, and so long as the board is okay with it, I think it would be unreasonable. I don't want to say unreasonable. The rules are what they are. Submit what you have, what you want for your application, and submit it. However, we've been through this, and in fairness to Mr. Dawson, like the fact that the projection component wasn't part of the application necessarily, and there's really just, we were talking about the square footage and the two-story portion of it. I think it's fair for this board, if you would like to consider it, I think it would be fair for you to consider it, as long as Mr. Dawson's okay with it, and obviously he presented it, so. And again, we're familiar with the issue, because I think in his previous sign application, you guys were all familiar and well familiar with the projection issue. So, again, it's technically not within the rule, but I think, in fairness, you guys can consider it.
And just notice too, in January, there is a change coming in that's going to allow for bracket width on projection signs that will technically extend them past the 3 foot, which is on there now. So say, for example, if a sign comes in that is 3 by 3 to match the 9 square feet, 3 feet, say it's 3 feet wide, it would have to be mounted all the way up against the building. So to allow for brackets, we're allowing a 6-inch extension off of that. So a maximum 3 feet thick, wide face, 6-inch bracket. So 42 square feet, technically, the sign will be able to project from the building. So that is being looked at to account for those brackets and the extra extension of those buildings. So what I'm saying is that request, that part of that request does fall in line with at least where we're.
So I'm comfortable adding that variance. Ms. Dawson, would you be?
Yes, please, if you could.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to drag everything back through everything, so.
For me, just clarification or further discussion on the point you brought up earlier. You talked about driver visibility coming through town. I would be curious to hear what the thought process on how going to a larger sign will not, more impactful. I get that you are not using like reflective bulbs or anything like that, but you're strictly increasing the signage.
Yeah, it's based on the size of the letters versus the distance away that you are, and so it will increase visibility is what my point was, because the letters are much larger, and the greenery will stand out a lot more than what it does now with a small circular the granary, on the small projecting sign that I have now, smaller projecting sign.
Yeah.
And then just to clarify again, so the brightness, like the red around, that's not gonna be flashing or anything, that's just gonna be kind of almost how it looks, just kind of.
Yeah, like a subtle red. It's they're globe bulbs, kind of like what is on string lights, those type of bulbs. So they're not bright, and that's what it'll look like, is like those small bulbs that are red.
Okay.
Would you consider non-red?
Oh, you know, that's one of the things that it's funny you said that, because it's one of the things that we're adamant about the sign, is that there's something about red and that catches people's attention and eyes, and so it draws your vision to it.
The font of like, yeah, the silo and the round granary one, and then you have a different font. Is that purposeful too?
Yeah, because we kind of evolved. It's the same thing with growing, and we don't use the same wordage around our round sign. We've gotten away from using the round sign as our logo, and so yeah, that's why that has changed a little bit now.
Since it has changed, do you foresee, just for conversation purposes, any of the signs going away? Like the round one, you said, you know, maybe you don't really utilize that logo anymore.
Yeah, I see that, if anything, like when we expand into Main Street Treasures, their sign will come down, because I won't need a larger sign or a different sign when I do expand. It could be used, because that will still be my entrance where it is.
Time to clarify. When you expand further, are there plans of adding more sign, bigger sign? Because it seems like the main point of contention here is that you've outgrown your existing sign. And every time you get a new business, you have to come back and get an even bigger sign.
Yeah, no, I do not have any plans on asking for anything other than this one sign change, because we have increased, our business was so small at first, and now it is much larger. It's we're doing 5 times the business that we did when we opened up. And so when we expanded into the next space, it's mostly just to put the stage in that space and not for additional seating, except where the stage is today. There'll just be a few extra tables. It's not going to be a large increase in occupants.
I don't have questions for Mr. Thompson. Signs.
So we could go through the deliberations of application 25-8. So for 1138.05C3A, that said area variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Would any of the board have any comment on 11.05C3A?
As far as contrary to the public interest, we did have 2 members from public speak out, but it was 50-50. One was for it, one was against it.
Harriman on that? We did have a 50/50 split of the public interest. Moving on to 1138.05 C3B, that said area variance is justified due to special conditions.
This is one I want to ask Derek about a little bit more.
Mhm.
One of the things we talked about is on, and I think you alluded to it, industrial, is that there is this idea of how much a building has does determine how much signage post. That's not a consideration in our current code. Is that something that we are considering doing? Is that
No, for projection sign, no.
no? Okay. Good thing that's a part of the set of conditions here is that the current sign is known, and so looking to more right size the non-sign with amount of frontage. So I see that argument. I don't know if it really holds up. You look at like how the code is written, but I am receptive to the special conditions argument.
I would say there's no conditions as pertains to the property.
I guess it depends on I guess I'm looking at what are special conditions. I think the property itself is unique, as in the owner of the property is also the operator of the property. Inside of that building where it's at itself is the owner, has all of his combined businesses. The building next to him that he's referring to, the building owner has multiple different tenants in it. So for when you look at this building, the owner itself is operating all of the businesses, in that same space. So I do think it is unique, different than, the building, some of the other ones that are located in our district.
So for the 1138.05 C3B, it sounds like we have two different, what you're saying, Mr. Harriman, you're saying that there are no special conditions?
I think there
There are, I'm
special
sorry,
conditions,
Mr.
yeah.
Ayler.
Special conditions to the buildings around it, which might fit into another category better.
Yeah.
Mhm. So moving on to 1138.05 C3C1, that the literal enforcement of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties. The factors to be considered and weighed in determining whether practical difficulties have been encountered shall include but not be limited to the following. Whether there can be beneficial use of the property without the variance.
I would say, could there be beneficial use without the variance? Yes. I mean, the property right now, as he says, what, 5 times with kind of the current signage as it is. So it's been very successful with that. So
I would concur with Mr. Harriman saying yes, that the beneficial use of the property without variance.
True. Agreed.
Moving on to the 1138.05 C3C2, whether the variance is substantial.
Obviously, yeah. 9 versus 40 is, that probably fits the substantial category. But yeah, it is not uncommon for that building specifically, or neighboring building, like they all have variances, but I think the more principal arguments here is that we don't want to get into a position where we're just getting out a lot of variances. So, and like it sets a precedent for if you had a larger building, you can just come and get a variance. But I also think that having, like for frontages, 3 different small signs. I don't think that's really serving what these are after anyways. But anyways, yeah, variance is substantial. Went off on a tangent.
And moving on to C, the 113805 C3C3. Whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance.
I think this is where the neighboring property fits in a little bit better. The similar sign.
Yeah, I don't think anything really changes from that district. Lots of interesting signage, and we've been approving.
Yeah, I would substantial detriment. I think it would be substantial detriment.
Yeah.
Eleven 113805C3C4. Whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services like water, sewer, garbage.
Don't believe it will.
That was always funny to see.
It would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. 113805C3C5. Whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction.
Yes.
Even addressed that. He had it, he applied for a previous variance with the existing sign.
So, yes. 113805C3C6. Whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance.
Like obviously you could do a non-projecting sign that takes up most of the frontage, and that would be fine. You could do multiple projecting signs, and that would be fine. But I'm not really sure if that's in the spirit of the zoning code or public interest. Like I don't know if that's better than what is being proposed. So I think I could see that one either way.
I was gonna say, I would agree. I think, as you said, the kind of a wall sign could go really big on that side, which would not require variance to have a larger sign, but for the projecting sign would need the variance.
Eleven 113805C3D. The spirit of the zoning ordinance will be observed and substantial justice done if the area variance is granted.
Spirit of the be observing substantial justice granted. That one, I probably would say no. I mean, the spirit of the ordinance is to kind of limit the size of signs for kind of the first floor businesses. With
I would agree with Mr. Herman as far as the spirit of this zoning ordinance, I mean, is, if it was granted, I think that, it would lean towards, it would not be observed. So moving on to 1138.05C3E, that the variance is based on need, not convenience or profit.
See, I always go back to on this one. I personally don't think this is always fair for businesses because I think anytime you advertise for your business, it's always going to be for a profit. I mean, that's why you have a sign is to advertise where you're at. So, I mean, I don't like always how it says that. I know it's an ordinance, but you know, that businesses are always advertising for profit. So
You
like,
want to have it
you
convenient
have
for
to
your customers,
yeah.
and you want it, I mean, part of business, so it is complicated. Any other comment on that one? Mr. Engler, or anything?
The convenient bucket, but like again, I just keep getting back to like I don't encourage have a bunch of small signs or have one big banner ad and to do this, but it's square the convenience box, I would say.
Okay, so our findings, we went through each one of them.
So we'll get those typed up here. What?
No, I was just typing a brief that I'm
Oh,
working
you were doing something, something else.
on. Was I supposed to be recording this? No. Yeah, let's take, if we could take like a 10-minute break just to give me time to see if I can clean this up, and then I'll get it over to Mr. Dryer.
Yeah, radio, we play some holiday music.
I'll bet it is. That's on, like, I guess why we went for the,
Is that what you do when you're typing?
yeah, was it because we combined a lot of signs in
Yeah, it's a
one
lot.
sign?
Like it
I'm having.
goes easier.
Like, we shut down the guitar, but like, we allowed that to go through, like, why is the guitar not okay, but the sign was. I heard one of us talking, complaint on the guitar was that it didn't fit the characteristic at all, yeah, and I had more dimensions. Kept them all, but, struck out. Because what I'm worried about is the whole precedent thing. Like, I know the board says this because the RV was so inconsistent. And so, yeah, I don't want to give one sign to one business, deny to the other. Because it's back to, depends on who you get when you show up to ZBA.
About like, you know, there was conversation about future, but you cannot make a decision upon what future.
Yeah, no, I mean,
That's why.
let's just say that the code was going that way. If you get the variance, it would just fall, it would just then become code, but it's not guaranteed, I mean, it hasn't gone through P and Z yet. P and Z could deny it and then not, you know, the new ordinance and not go through, or it could get to council and council not approve it. So it's not guaranteed.
I was asking about the whole frontage versus signage allowable. If we had that, I think that would make this a lot easier, I guess.
Yeah, it's just not the intent for projection signs. That's just.
And you're saying like what's happening in January, that the bracket is going to be included into the,
Yeah, we're gonna allow like a 6-inch addition to 3 feet. So right now it's 3 feet from, extend from the beam. But what, a lot of signs that are being proposed at 3 by 3, 9 square feet, that puts it all up against the building. And a lot of the designs have either a post or have brackets to kind of project it a little bit, offset a little bit more. So allowing to a 6-inch bracket, it's adding 6 inches to it, but it just,
in addition to 9 square feet.
yes, so it's not,
If
you're
you
not
want-
adding space, you're not adding sign face, you're just adding brackets. So it's just the, so it'll be a total, it could go up to 42 inches projected from the wall rather than the 3 feet, because a 3 foot by 3 foot, like I said, is you're up against the wall, so you're against the wall. So by adding brackets, you get that true projection off of it. Because it's, with having that 3 by 3, that 9 square feet, either you're going to narrow and tall, or you circle or square 3 by 3 to get that 9. At 3 foot, you're at the max already. So for a little bit of a gap in between the building and the sign. There's more in character projection sign.
Are we doing snow? Is it coming?
That one is.
You just know tonight? Is it really?
Just a little bit, not too much.
I think south is where Cincinnati areas.
We're driving the Jeep,
And they
driving the
got,
car to work.
a couple weeks ago, they got,
Like, yeah,
they got 12 inches of snow.
very much so. Doesn't even get warmed up.
Do you ever fight
How many miles do you think you,
Some stuff, yeah.
yes, you have on your bike?
middle of nowhere?
I was trying to calculate half a mile from my house to the office. So like 1 mile each time I did, you know, that's 5 miles. I'll do it in the evening anymore. But I might do that potentially, it depends. But I sometimes only get to ride 3 times a week. But a couple hundred.
What is that? So what's that? Let's just say 5 times.
It's in your somewhere.
52?
Yeah, 52 weeks.
Yes.
That's it, yeah, 2 if I ride it every day.
Do you take it when you guys go
Yeah.
camping and stuff?
Yeah, trailer, like the girl.
So how do you haul that? Like, where do you put the trailer?
Well, you put it in the back of the Jeep.
It's not extended.
So many of
Now, can you stack things on top of the tent?
Reading
like if it's super light, I think I wouldn't do the
under,
trailer,
under the
Yeah.
but like the rack itself can hold more, and the tent itself can't. Like I wouldn't do a kayak even though it's light, just because of how much the wind would.
One of
pull
those
on it.
trailer hitch carriers wouldn't work because your bike's probably extended, your tire
Precisely.
extended back. So you couldn't-
We've looked at doing a bike carrier. They have another receiver
Oh,
hitch on the
yeah.
back.
Yeah.
We looked at those. It's in here somewhere. We're gonna be sticking 6 feet off the back end and like backing into stuff. It's
That
gonna be
one, a little teardrop trailer.
That, I think,
A little flatbed or
I
something.
think we'd like to do something like that. Want to keep doing the tent, but maybe like some overlanding trailers just for storage.
Yeah,
Just have something like that.
I like teardrop ones.
They would be really cool. With tent, but the tent was so much cheaper.
Just put heavy duty tires on the kids' bike trailer and a hitch on that.
For
You
oh
could just
my
pull
gosh,
that.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, that'd be great. We'll see. We'll see.
Sign that we're live.
These are so
So he'll be, he's working from home tomorrow.
see Michigan's good. Oh, yeah. He had an inappropriate relationship with a staffer.
Oh my gosh.
So I sent him a screenshot of that and I was like, hey, I hope you're doing well. So he texted me and said he's going to be on Friday.
Yeah, he's being friend.
stuff. If
Yeah,
that'd be
yeah,
helpful.
yeah, because he might,
I don't
I
want.
told him, I didn't know he was, didn't know if he was gonna be here. So I went through a day, figured out all the permits and everything. I texted him, Mike, I don't know what you got left to do, so yeah,
I'll
probably,
let me make a sticky note and I can send something.
Ash had this texted already to us.
I need ChatGPT. Take notes as you go through.
I mean, it's getting there.
Almost done.
I said, you know, Ashley would have been,
No way. There's not a chance she types faster than I do.
she uses more than one finger to.
I used to have to write decisions at the Supreme Court. We had to type them on our own.
She did it with Airbnb.
Design is different.
Getting her last name.
I don't think much has changed.
Incorrect wording.
Okay.
No, actually, yeah, that's this one. So, it's like this thing from the guitar where he's asking about. Where can I get this out? They talk. So, decided to stay the exact same size. It's just. I keep going back on it. I don't think I better first I have just a massive panorama of like the Grand Ridge.
Okay, I just sent it to you, Justin.
Thank you, sir.
I'll put it from my end and I'll make changes as we go. Unless you wanna make the changes.
Okay.
If you open it up, are you gonna make the changes?
I can.
Okay. We'll have to do the change to the final paragraph, obviously, too. Based on how it's.
That would be another 15 minutes if you did it, huh?
20 minutes. Goodness. Apologies in advance. I typed as fast as I could. I guess I'll have to amend that part.
Yeah.
I'll do that right now. I'll make the changes as we go on.
All right.
Her. What was this, what was the projection? What was the projection section?
99 C 4 C.
Got it. To permit a projection beyond how much?
3.
Got it. Yep. I did want to ask, Mr. Dawson, you were reading off your presentation regarding the Duncan factors and things of that nature, and I may not have done a great job because you're talking so fast when you're going through them. I didn't, obviously they heard it. Would you want to have that submitted as part of the record?
I can give you a copy if
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can submit it afterwards, so we'll put it in there as part of the record. Just because I want to make sure, like, I know you read all of it and they all heard it, and I did not probably type it well enough. And granted, this is all recorded anyway, but just to make sure it's clear and complete.
Okay.
I think I meant size of the building.
Yeah, that's,
Size of the sign, the size of the sign, yeah. If you would fix that in that second paragraph there, just, yep, right there, size of the building, my bad. I'm sorry. Did I put Mr.? Yeah, how about that?
that's okay. I had, there was a Mr. there.
And just for everybody's benefit, my synopsis here is nothing more than like the minutes. You rely on what you heard, if I mucked something up that I typed in here, it's not the official, this is the summary for the purposes of the decision and the deliberations, but it's all part of, we have this all recorded, it's gonna be in the minutes, so if I mess something up and they're corrected, feel free to do so, but it's, it's not intended to be word for word. It's intended to be as quick as I can type it. And hopefully capturing what was presented.
The paragraph at the beginning sentence says building has 70 feet square footage. Probably you want to say street frontage.
That's what I meant, yep. Part of the brain is trying to listen and the other part is just regurgitating what it hears and yeah, and I'll apologize, I could not type quick enough for the Duncan factors, so I trust you guys all paid attention to what he was saying, because it's just not a complete, nearly complete summary of it.
Still up at additional signage
Where are you?
here.
Yes, I'm sorry, yep. Next paragraph, I have a double is by the 6x2, the third line.
Miss McCoy.
Did I do it again? Fat fingers typing too quick. Fix the, typically, Colin would put together the template, so I had to go back to the earlier template and wait, go back.
You're supposed. That's like a big mark that we caught.
Exactly, just pick it on me.
Fix it, Ashley.
Well, you'll get more of Ashley, fine.
Yes.
So your first thing would be to move to adopt the findings of fact,
Mhm.
and then separately, you vote on whatever your determination is.
Okay. To adopt the finding of facts?
So,
A second. Or, right, the second.
Second.
My bad, thank you. Mr. Harriman,
yes.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Rollins.
Yep.
Ayler,
Yes.
correct? Mr. Ayler,
Taylor, yes.
thank you.
Yeah, do we just proceed?
Yes. Yeah. Now you've adopted the findings of fact, so now you move forward on somebody making a motion to approve or deny the application.
I would like to request a motion to approve variance. Just want to make sure I get it correct here. 25-8, applicant Mr. Tim Dawson.
And just for the purpose of the record, the application as amended, which would include the projection component. I think that's clear in the record, but
We need to approve that also.
yeah, because that's that new component that was added during the hearing. So, but you said it right. I mean, we're just all understanding that it's
It
three
includes the
elements.
projection.
Yeah, there's 3 elements to the application now.
Variance request, including the third projection variance request, Mr. Harriman seconded. Mr. Harriman,
Yes.
Ms. McCoy,
Yes.
Mr. Robbins,
I'm gonna go now.
Mr. Ayler.
No.
2 yeas.
It requires a majority. So the application is denied.
I'd like to motion to adjourn the meeting.